Come to module number 2, which covers the syllabus area number 2, implement, sustain, and review. What are the syllabus area content that we will be covering in this particular module? At level 1 learning, we will be covering the 3 broad approaches to implementing portfolio management. We shall examine the benefits of assessing the impact of portfolio management. And at level 2 learning, we would look into when each approach to implementation is relevant, what are the advantages of planned approaches to implementation, and the first 7 steps and their benefits to a staged implementation of portfolio management. We will look into the key factors to consider in sustaining progress. And finally, we will look into the approaches to assessing portfolio management maturity and the impact of portfolio management, including examples of metrics that can be employed. So let's start off with an examination of the 3 approaches to implementing portfolio management. Broadly speaking, when you think about implementing portfolio management in an organization, you can think about 3 approaches. The first approach being Big Bang approach. In this particular approach, we implement portfolio management in one single shot. Implementing portfolio management is viewed as a business change program in its own right and is planned with a business case, a compelling vision for the future state, a blueprint or a target operating model, and an implementation plan agreed by the management board. A time-bound implementation phase is followed by live running encompassing all portfolio definition and delivery practices. If you have noticed some key ideas in this particular approach, you would have seen that MoP recommends using a program approach to implement portfolio management. Some of the documents that we have, namely a vision statement, a future state, a target operating model, a blueprint example. They're all ideas pertaining to program implementation approach. So always a good idea when we are going into a Big Bang approach to use a program management approach to implement portfolio management. The second approach is evolution. Here, a more evolutionary or incremental approach is taken, starting with areas of greatest need or those where rapid progress can be made. And the organization's approach to portfolio management then evolves to reflect its needs, opportunities, and lessons learned. For example, let's say one of the greatest needs of the organization is they would like to see a visibility of all the projects and programs within a portfolio. So they might want to kind of start off with the understand practice in the portfolio definition cycle. Implement that and see how it goes, and then think about what practices would they like to implement in the next tranche, for example. So that is what evolution is all about. And the third approach is ad hoc. As with evolutionary approach, there is no detailed master plan, but there is no expectation that the approach will deliver, and no commitment to capturing lessons learned to inform development. Instead, implementation is more opportunistic. So please keep these 3 approaches in perspective. Now, when is each of these approach relevant? So the next slide kind of covers that particular question. There is no one right way to implementing portfolio management. It all depends on circumstances. Now, you could go ahead and implement using a Big Bang approach. And this is appropriate where top-down approaches to strategy formulations are applied, where the environment is relatively stable, you know what your strategy is, you know where you would like to go ahead. So in a context of stability, you could use Big Bang approach, and also in the context of project and program management capabilities being relatively being more mature. So when you have good program project management capabilities, when you have a stable strategic environment, you could think about using a Big Bang approach. You could use a staged incremental or evolutionary approach. in less stable environments and where strategy is itself emerging. In a lot of organizations, they are going through a restructuring. There is a change in the national strategy. So in environments like that, good to use incremental and evolutionary approaches. And finally, ad hoc approaches is applicable where existing practices are less mature and where senior commitment to organization-wide end-to-end portfolio management is less well embedded. Some additional explanations are provided on the next slide. The different drivers behind the adoption of portfolio management and the different conditions in which it is implemented will also influence the way in which portfolio management is implemented. Different organizations have different reasons for implementing portfolio management, and the reasons could include a major cut in budgets, forcing questions about how to achieve deficit reduction without impacting adversely on service delivery. Another reason could be an external event such as a new competitor or regulatory change. Another reason could be a change in guard at the top, a new chief executive officer, or the realization that the organization's track record in delivery of change initiatives and benefits realization requires collective action. This could be various reasons why organizations might implement portfolio management. Similarly, organizations have different starting points reflecting their existing PPM capability, organizational culture, governance structure, financial position, and strategic objectives. The different drivers behind the adoption of portfolio management and the different conditions in which it is undertaken will influence the way in which portfolio management is implemented. So let's kind of briefly examine what are the advantages of a planned approach. So here we have some interesting ideas on the advantages of planned approaches. Planned approaches, by that we are referring to Big Bang and evolutionary approaches. They have several advantages. Planned approaches to the implementation of business case are supported by best management practice guidance. For example, you could use a program management thinking to implement portfolio management. That's the advantage. Experience shows that the use of structured systematic processes drastically improves the likelihood of success. A planned approach with confirmed senior management buy-in will significantly reduce the risk of failure. Ideally, a board level member should fill the role of SRO for the implementation of portfolio management. It can be quicker, so realizing the potential benefits earlier on. So those are some broad advantages of planned approaches.